I was born ready.
Everybody's a device.
That was my motto for years. Don't know where you are.
Turn off the ears. Turn off the volume.
Log out of the Zoom session.
Okay, so leave.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're not doing it? Yes, we are. Because how are we going to see Drew?
You'll be able to see him on the screen.
Touch the screen and then it says leave on the right hand corner. Okay. Leave it.
So do you want us to stay on or stay off?
So you're saying leave?
You'll either need to leave or mute, but you'll need to have it muted and volume all the way down.
Where do I mute?
Just turn the volume down.
Okay, at 6 o'clock, everybody good to go?
Yes.
Great. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the regular scheduled meeting of the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners, March 24, 2020. We're going to open up with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Cynthia Reed Ward, followed with an invocation from Commissioner Truman Tinsley III. Please rise.
Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we are here today to ask for your blessings and guidance in the performance of our duties as elected officials. We pray for strength, love, knowledge, and understanding. Help us to recognize and solve the problems that are presented. Make our solutions fair and just to the best interest of everyone. Help us to overcome our shortcomings and keep us united as a team to work for the betterment of the city of Griffin and his people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Thank you. First item of business is to approve the agenda. We need to amend it to include item number 8 to consider a resolution declaring the local state of emergency within the city of Griffin effective immediately and lasting until April 6, 2020. Do we have a motion to amend the agenda? We have a motion by Mr. Tinsley. Do we have a second by Ms. Cynthia Reed Ward? All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. First item of business tonight is, at this time, we'll go into citizens' comment. At this time, the mayor opens the floor to comments from audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to the concern within the jurisdiction of the City Commission. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for unlimited expression of opinion. The mayor reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or staff for resolution. This is the first time that we'll actually possibly have folks sending in questions, so be patient with us as we experience this new method. At this time, in the city courtroom, is there anybody on my left like to come before the commission? Anybody on my left? Is there anybody on my right? Good evening. If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Daniel Proctor. My address is, I'm speaking for my restaurant, but my address is 1010 Maddox Court, Griffin, Georgia 30224.
Thank you, Mr. Proctor.
I'm a business owner in Griffin, and I'm concerned about the things going on right now and trying to make my business survive concerning our issues right now. This unprecedented event that we have going on. The information that's coming out from our state government, our local government, has been all over the place. I know it's an unprecedented event, and we're having difficulties figuring out what's going on, but last night I was told to watch the governor's meeting and find out what it relates to my restaurant being open or closed. We placed orders based on that for my restaurant. Today we find a moving target. It happens. I understand these things are going to happen. There's nothing we can do. We are trying to convert our business into a different style of service. I have been a dine-in restaurant for a long period of time, for 18 years in this community. We are trying to convert with delivery options, takeout, and people to pick up outside our restaurant. Things that I'm requesting that we do differently right now is I have talked to the permit officer, allowing us to sell package sales inside of our restaurant. If people come in and order food, they can order 6-pack of beer and wine, and we can sell that accordingly. My insurance company I can't do delivery, and I was so worried about it. My insurance company has came to me, and I requested that we get our employees covered to do deliveries. We're trying to do the right things. I cannot send employees out just to deliver things without having insurance. My insurance company, this shows you humanity in Griffin area and everything. They have told me that they will cover me for the next 90 days. I'm sorry. They will cover me for the next 90 days at no charge. As long as my employees are a good driving record, clearing and everything else. I'm requesting, though, like other states, other cities in this Georgia right now, Canton, Woodstock, and there's several other ones, that they are delivering alcohol to these places. It prevents people from leaving their houses. We can deliver not liquor, I'm talking 6-pack of beer, just as package sales, and wine, as a temporary thing right now, which means you could put 2 weeks on it, 3 weeks on it, anything like that to help us with a new revenue stream. Since in-room dining has been closed to us by the Georgia Department of Public Health, I don't have another option. We are trying to convert everything we got. We're doing casseroles that we're going to have ready. We're going to have we're eliminating our to-go menu to make it more efficient. My employees, I got 43 employees in my restaurant, and I am doing everything I can to make sure that they have something to do. I've told my employees, if you're sick, don't come in. If you are fearful for your life, don't come in. Take off. Take the week off. Take 2 weeks off. My employees have came up to me. I got 17-year employees, people, and they have came up to me and said, take a shift away from me. Take a shift away from me. I'll take 2 weeks off. And they're doing what they can to help out so we can spread the wealth. My servers have been pulling tips together and trying to spread it for each individual person to help out. I had a meeting yesterday with my servers, explaining to them what I'm trying to do to keep them with a job. The government right now says, oh, we're going to pass a bailout package. We're going to do this. We don't know what's happening right now. They're telling me that if I don't lay anyone off, I could get a grant, which I don't have to pay back. If I lay someone off, I no longer can get a grant, I have to get a loan. I don't owe money for my restaurant. I have worked 18 years to pay off all my debts. I went through the 2008, 2009 crisis. I don't want to owe any money on a restaurant. And it's been very hard work to be able to do that. So when we closed our dining room for the revenue stream we had coming in, as of today, we're closed, our dining room. I need some other form of revenue stream doing the delivery options. And being able to do the alcohol sales may prevent people from leaving. I understand it might be a state regulation, local area, but other cities in the state are doing that right now to help out. I don't want it to be permanent. I don't want to be a delivery restaurant permanently. We have concentrated on people coming in the restaurant, providing 100% of our focus on you, not doing catering, so when you come in, you get a very consistent meal. In the last 18 years, it's been successful. 7 weeks this year are in my top 20 weeks since I've ever been open. It's amazing that what we have done, and the economy has been great. But for all of us restaurants in Griffin, and I'm speaking for a lot of us, we have over locally owned restaurants that are having difficulties right now, and we're trying to adjust. I've got employees right now coming up, and they're going to have problems paying the power bills next month. I paid my sales and use tax on Friday. I paid my power bill on Friday. But being able, next month I'm going to have to come up, and I might have a difficulty doing that. And it's an unprecedented event, but deferring the payment and not charging penalties. Spread it out. I want to pay it. I want to do my part and make sure that the community, but it's keeping capital in my restaurant to keep us employed. If we don't do something as a whole community to help out or change the way it is, we're going to see a lot different world in 2 months. My employees are fearful of their power being shut off. My 43 employees have come up to me yesterday and talking to me over the week. I'm so afraid my power is going to be shut off. What am I supposed to do? I'm trying to call the Georgia Department of Labor to try to file unemployment for my employees. I cannot get through. I have left over 6 messages with the Georgia Department of Labor because I have never unemployed someone. I have to do partial unemployment for every one of my staff, because if you reduce their pay by 50% or hours by 50%, I now have to do a partial unemployment. I don't know how to fill that out. And I can't get in touch with the Georgia. They're overwhelmed. They're beyond capacity, and they're having problems right now. And I need our local government to look, hey, guys, they're not getting a check like they used to. I have the compassion of the people in Griffin right now have come up to me in the restaurant. They come up to me as the owner and give me money to give to my servers. It's not for my business. It's for my employees who have created my restaurant over the last 18 years. It's just like the city of Griffin. Without your employees here working every day diligently and doing your things, and those are your family. And if they weren't here to do it, the city would not be what it is. But it's distraught to find out we're having problems communicating. We hear one thing, it's another. I need help or information is what I'm requesting from people. Help me with a new revenue stream or anything. We're working with our insurance company. Hopefully we can work with the city. My landlords, for instance, I've been there 18 years. I can't count the number of restaurants that have opened and closed in the 18 years that I've been here. It is beyond counting on your hands and toes. And we're doing what we can to stay open. But I'm in that position right now. I'm better off than my employees. I could shut down the doors and everything. But it's not about me. It's about them. When they handed me that money this week and they come up and say, Danny, you will make it, it's to separate between them. We had a lady today, last Friday, come up and handed me an envelope. And I broke down with her. And when I went to the office and opened it up, it's $1,000 to give to servers. The compassion that we have, and I'm requesting the compassion from the city of Griffin to help us with our employees. We're trying to convert, like I said, to that to-go service. We're trying to just diversify. It's hard to do in 1 week. I should be there today, but when I'm calling the governor's office and I hear one thing, we call city, we hear another. Department of Health, we hear another. They're not all the same. It's difficult to run a business when you have a moving target. When they tell me one thing, I'm trying to, okay, I'll do this. But then today, we're told this. It's difficult. I understand this is an unprecedented event and we're worried about the public health, but we're providing a service that we can give food out to people. They can't get hamburger meat at the grocery stores right now. They can't get chicken at the grocery stores right now. Yesterday, I just posted on Facebook, hey guys, I have it if you want it. Call me, do whatever you can. And it blew me away at the response. But people need that because they're so worried about eating from day to day. I mean, that's how bad this has gotten, or whatever. Create a new revenue stream to it so we can deliver. I'm not asking for us to just deliver alcohol to people. That's not what I'm in business with. If they order a meal or food to be delivered, I'm asking for us to be able to put package sales with that. Closed containers, no liquor, but a bottle of wine. I've had people come in the restaurant today. I'm less than 50% cash. I lost 70% of my revenue. That's significant, guys. I'm trying to, they coming in and they're handing me that money, then they sit down and I've talked to everybody who's come to my restaurant since Sunday. I'm there, I get up at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep. I read these news articles and I'm scared. And then when I come into work and people are doing things to help out one another, it makes you want to work harder. It makes you want to work for those people that I employ. It makes you want to, we're going to come out in this better, but we have to work harder to do it. I'm working hardest I've ever done since I opened the restaurant in 2002. Where I'm working 100 and something hours a week and I'm talking to everybody and doing things. I'm not the only restaurant that's having a problem. On Tuesday night last week, me and several other restaurants, locally owned restaurants, got together. And we just started off by, what are you doing differently? What might work for me might not work for you. How to clean, sanitize our tables, doing everything we can. Do the spatial seating. We've been doing that for over a week now, where we've separated 6-foot spacing We've taken off condiments off the tables. We've done all that. Now we're just closed. So all my servers who rely on tips, today I had to call up and tell them, hey guys, we have a shift app. I had to go on there. Everybody, we're done. We're closed the dining room. I have people wanting to do deliveries, the servers. I'm trying to keep them employed. I'm trying to keep them with a job. If anybody's ever been to my restaurant, you've seen my staff. They're the same people that we've had. My whole entire kitchen line's been there 17 years. They've come up to me and, like I said, they've reduced their shifts. I'm just trying to get help from the local government, find out what's going on.
A couple of those issues, we're going to look at possibly handling the utility issue
Right.
tonight, and we can look at, as we talked, when you brought that to my attention, we can look at that option with the
Okay.
delivery of the alcohol.
Okay. It's just when I come up and ask questions and people respond in a way that isn't helpful, and it's scary to me. I'm looking for leadership. I'm looking for strong leadership through this time of crisis. Tell us what we need to hear. I'm tired of going and trying to find it every day. I need people to come to me and say, or I don't know if we need to go to mass email or do something with our restaurants, but we need to know what's happening. But believe me, my employees are my heart and blood of that restaurant. And you can talk to anyone that works for me and everything, and ex-employees. I'm going to do what I can to help them.
Danny, I have a question. You
Yes,
said
sir.
you closed the restaurant.
We have closed the in-room dining of the restaurant today.
Did I miss something? Why?
The Georgia Department of Health has sent out a letter, I found out today, from one of our leaders. He sent it out, and I had to go through it and read everything. Department of Health, this is an unprecedented event, and way down the list, halfway down, it says they are closing in-room dining options for all restaurants, regardless of what social spacing, distancing, and things like that. I got a restaurant that seats 250 people. I had 30 people in last night. Believe me, it's easy to do social distancing in my restaurant right now. But based on what the governor said yesterday, which we were told by local government to go watch what the governor says. The governor's office doesn't even know what's going on. I'm in contact with them every day and talking to them. But based on last night, as long as you don't allow more than 10 groups of 10 into the restaurant, was last night, and you do spatial seating, 6 people apart, you can do that. But if you can't do 6 foot of seating, we're going to shut you down. Okay. We'll do that. I've removed tables. If anybody's been to my bar, we had tables bolted to the floor. I've unbolted tables and removed them from the restaurant or whatever. But finding out today from I believe it's District 4, is that correct? Or is it an entire state of Georgia?
It's 4.
District 4.
District 4, but this is coming throughout the state of Georgia.
Right. Last night, it was the Georgia Department of Public Health. That's where we got the media blast from. And so to find out the governor and the Department of Health are on 2 different pages. I mean, it's a difficult situation to be in. So yesterday, I said, just put on there, hey, let's have hamburger meat or whatever. I'm not doing any sales. And all of a sudden, I sold 200 pounds of hamburger meat within an hour. The people in the community are finding it. I've got people coming in the restaurant who I've never seen before in 18 years because they can't get it at local. I've had to limit it to 2 packs. They're 2-pound packs of chicken or hamburger. We're going to start doing cut steaks. That time of year, people are stuck at their house. So if I can deliver a product to them where they don't leave the house or whatever, okay, they want some Hawaiian ribeyes that we make or whatever, marinated, and have it out there. I can deliver that with a package alcohol that I'm requesting. I understand it's a difficult situation, and the state wants to say one thing, the local government wants to say one thing. I need a new revenue stream. Help me. I've got inventory of alcohol, beer, wine that's just sitting on the shelf gathering dust. I know we're going to April 6th now with this. When I heard that, it's a kick in the stomach, but I'm prepared to do that. But I want my servers, they want to work in. We're doing casseroles we've been prepping up for 2 days to offer that where people can come in and pick them and put them in the refrigerator. and have instructions on how to cook them. These are homemade meals. These are not pre-made frozen dinners, because people need to have different options. What's upsetting to me as a business owner is when I'm having to shut down, close my restaurant, and I'm doing all the 6-foot social spacing. And I talked to someone upstairs, and they told me that Walmart is more sanitary. I'm sorry to use another business's name, but more sanitary than my restaurant could be. And I'm like, how? But why are we closing down the restaurants when we drive by parking lots of some big box stores and see 200-300 cars outside, not practicing social distancing for the last week that we've been doing, not do anything? If you've been to some grocery stores, their shelves are empty. They don't get toilet paper. They can't get those items. Or the people are going in and they're sitting shoulder to shoulder. They're not practicing the 6-foot spatial. It's a difficult situation to go into. I'm sitting out front or whatever and watching people walk by one another, and it's hard to practice the 6-foot spatial. We took tape and drew outside my restaurant and taped it down, so when people come pick up a to-go order, that they're 6 foot. If they want curbside, request it. We'll be happy to take it to your car. There's several restaurants, and that's part of our group of the locally owned restaurants that are doing very well right now because they were to-go driven restaurants.
Let me just interject real quick. Are you guys aware of what the language is regarding the delivery of package?
Current state law does not allow it. There was actually, that's what I've been looking up, there was a House bill presented in this session, 879, that has been approved by the House on March 10th. Of course, because that has been postponed, it has not made it to the Senate for a vote. It would allow beer and wine to be delivered. That was approved 110 to 54. Does not allow for liquor. There has to be proof of someone home that is 21 years old. So you've got half of your delegation that says that you can do that, but it's not a formal law. So currently it would be illegal. There are some cities that have somewhat said they'll allow it. It's not very clear because what they're doing is they seem to be lumping it into, we're allowing these restaurants to serve by delivery, takeout, or curbside pickup, and they're saying in like a separate section, you can do your alcohol sales that way too. So they're not specifically saying that they can deliver, but they're sort of trying to say you can do what you can the same way you can your food service. So it's sort of across the board. Some very specifically say absolutely not. Alpharetta, the most current one I could find was 4 days ago, and as we all know, this has changed hourly. But as of 4 days ago, Alpharetta specifically said no delivery of alcohol, even if you are delivering food. So it's sort of all over the board on that regard, but it is not current Georgia law to allow that.
But there's a gray area.
This is some unprecedented times, so.
All right.
So that's not currently in the document that we have this evening, but is that something that we can
Was looking it up.
address?
If we can figure out a loophole or some way for us to consider.
And it's just for restaurants and food, not liquor
They have to
stores
have an
or?
alcohol license. to
Okay.
do it. In the new House bill as passed, they would have to have an on-premises license or a core permit. So they would still have to have an alcohol license to be able to sell on premises.
Okay, so you guys could get us some more tangible information about it, and then we could go from there. Okay, perfect.
Danny, you said Canton and...
Canton and Woodstock are the only two that I looked up. I've also seen several other restaurants because, like I said, I've been up at 3 in the morning reading articles every day. And it's a moving target. We don't know what's going on. I'm sure the local government may have asked the state to help us out. And in this unprecedented situation, they might say, you know what, let's do that. And I'm asking for that.
Right.
I have a liquor license, a poor liquor license. I have a GBI background check on me every year and everything. I have to make sure that my servers are of age. I'm asking, if I have delivery, there will be someone over 21 in that vehicle to transport alcohol. There will be food that they ordered to I will limit the amount of alcohol that we will sell to someone. I do not want to take out 3 cases of wine, 12 cases of beer to a house party.
No, right.
But the people who are sitting there, when I have people in the restaurant who are celebrating anniversaries this week, and they come in and they go, it was just so wrong to sit at home. I'm celebrating my 42nd anniversary. 2 people sitting in the restaurant and said, thank you for being open. So I've had, I believe, 4 different anniversaries come up and I've gone to and talked to. One last night was a second anniversary. And it's being open and doing that. Well, let's say they're at home and they're quarantined and they're having an anniversary. Hey, I can deliver a nice bottle of wine.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry, but my prices are a little bit high to sell on, because my on-premise wine, it was to help set over, restaurant typically are 66% markup on wine. I mean, it's a pretty good bit because we have to pay our liquor tax and we have to pay my excise tax. We have to pay all these other things to be done. Overhead is tremendous. And it's not like a package store where they just come in and grab it.
So we're going to look at
Okay.
package situation, delivery.
Okay.
We're going to address the utility situation.
Okay.
I hope tonight in the emergency declaration, if for any reason that we see a change of public health stance in regards to opening restaurants, as everything's a moving target right now.
Right.
So we can adjust things as we need.
My other point is, like I said, right now, closing restaurants seem to be the thing to do for politics. What I'm trying to say is we're doing everything we can to be sanitation. But when I see other people in violation of the social distancing thing, I don't want to mention business names, but when I go out and I know there's a manufacturing facility or business that has more than 10 people working in it, because that was the order, groups of 10. I believe I was told tonight.
Or half the capacity of the regular attendance, so there's different things.
Right. My restaurant's at 250 people, guys, and my capacity went down to 30 people,
I think
basically.
there's also the issue of what's been deemed essential, and that is far beyond our ability to address whether or not it's essential.
Right.
So even personally, I feel the same way that what is essential and what isn't in the
Right.
area.
I'm providing food and trying to get people that can't find hamburger meat at the grocery store. I mean, other restaurants around town are providing services and food and everything that we can get, giving people options to be able to dine out. Our staff of 43, I'm working with maybe 5 or 6 people a day. It's a lot different. I have to do that for survival, for the business, payroll, things like that, but I'm trying to create more work for them. Today I brought in extra people to prepare casseroles so I can provide work for them so we can get this delivery going. I was trying to roll it out this evening, but I kept hearing news and it's taken me away from my business that I need to go.
Mr. Proctor, if I may, I guess this is a question for the city manager. If we do come up with something that is viable, something along the lines of Canton and Woodstock, is that something that can be done administratively, or will we have to vote on it? Or is it something that you guys can take care of in these
I
times?
would imagine that you would have to vote on it. I'll have to go back and look through the order that we're going to do later, but I don't believe that's within my purview. There's a lot of things that you're giving me authority to do. I don't believe that's one of them, so you'll probably have to vote on it. But let me assure you and Mr. Proctor, with all due respect to the governor and the Department of Health, we are trying to find every loophole we can to work with all of our local businesses, especially our restaurants. Believe you me, when our local businesses are successful and stay open, the city's going to be successful and stay open as well. We are very similar to a small business in that we don't have a printing press back here to print money. So we operate on a cash flow very similar to what Mr. Proctor operates on, and when our cash flow stops, my employees go home as well. The difference is my employees can't go home because I have essential services like public safety that I have to, sanitation that I have to do. So they'll either work without pay or we'll all be out there picking up the trash ourselves. We are, with all due respect to all the authorities above us, we're looking for every loophole that we can come up with to allow things within the law and within the guidance that we're given by state law and by the orders that come out. So frequently, I'm losing track of them at this point. So we're doing everything we can for restaurants and other businesses to try to keep the economy going as good as we can.
If I could,
Yes, sir.
I would like to see us tonight, if we have to vote on it, to add that to the list of things that administratively, we would grant those powers to the city manager, that he be allowed to, if we're able to find a loophole, if we're going to call it that, so that businesses will have other options to help the customers and help the safety of our community as a whole. And I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense, of keeping more people at home and off the streets, because that's the only way we're going to get through this thing, is eliminating people going out. So
That's right.
Kroger has a click list.
That's right.
And you go and they'll bring it to your car, and if Mr. Proctor and other businesses that are being represented here could do the same, I think that would be great. So if we take a vote, if we could add that to it, I think that would be great. Unless somebody has a
Let me ask you
problem.
this, Danny. I know you said that you met with other restaurants. I know you have
Yes.
like a coalition. This is not just a request from you. These others, they are
Right.
the same, in the same situation.
Right,
They
there's
want to-
another owner here today of a restaurant locally, and they're all in the restaurants right now trying to do what they can, and they needed someone to show up here.
We've heard from several. We've not heard just from Mr. Proctor. We've heard from several restaurant owners.
Y'all may have had phone calls, because I'm from a political background, my family and everything, so being able to figure out who to call, what to do and everything. I have been for 18 years, you don't hear much out of me. I try to do everything I can to obey the law, alcohol sales, everything that I can do, hours of operations. I don't try to rock the boat.
Right.
If the community says you have to do this, I fall in line, or whatever. It's for the better. But when we hear what happened over the weekend with a couple businesses having to be closed down because they're going out and partying and over capacity, and people are sitting right next to, I don't want to mention names. I'm sure everybody here knows what business they were over the weekend, but they closed them down at 12:30 at night. If I could provide alcohol, well, guess what? It prevents them from having to go out and do that stuff. I want to limit the sale to those places. I do not want anything. I have a liquor license. I might have had 2 or 3 drinks over the last year or whatever. I'm not a heavy drinker at all.
Right.
Or my father wasn't a heavy drinker and everything, so I learned that. Over the last week, I've had to have a couple, because this is unprecedented, okay? I probably have equaled my consumption for the last 2 years in a couple days. And I'm sure other restaurant owners have done this.
We're going to do what we can.
Anything y'all can do to help out
Absolutely.
and talk. My concern about the vote is, does it take a week till the next meeting, or does a vote happen tonight?
Administrative
And then-
authority granted to the city manager on certain issues.
Okay, and then-
That require a vote.
And then you go to the state later and say, we approve this here, but we're contingent upon the state approval. I mean, I understand that, but that way you can, if we wait a week to do this, we're all talking April 6th.
This is the top priority.
Yeah.
Right. We're all talking April 6th to be done.
Make it work if it's legal for us to, and
Thank you.
that-
I appreciate it.
Dan, thank you for coming out and being such a team player and looking out for our community and your employees the way you do for almost 2 decades. I mean, you are a leader within yourself, and I really appreciate everything that you've done, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're still in citizen comment. Is there anybody else in the room that would like to come before the board and make comments? Yes, sir. Please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
My name's Anthony Bailey, live at 313 Tomachichi Road. 2 questions I had on it's the District 4. So is this all restaurants within District 4 are shutting out dining rooms? Is that what the policy is?
That's our interpretation.
So we're not sure on that yet. We're just, right now, that's just an interpretation we have.
We've been given a directive, and so we're following.
Now, does that include patio seating? Because it says dining room. Is patio considered part of a dining room?
I saw where it said both.
I don't know,
Patio seating is included.
so it does include that?
And in order to protect
It
members,
says dine-in option, I believe.
dining areas
Dine-in option.
closed, should be closed until further notice.
That's dining in. I'm asking, I'm saying, is that considered, patio is considered dining in, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. And my other question, just with some of the larger restaurant, I would consider it a restaurant, just one of our larger places, Kroger, are they going to be shut down from serving food there as well? Are they going to just be takeout only? Is this policy going to be for them as well?
Right.
So it will apply to them as well? Okay. All right, now just a couple quick questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Anthony.
Hold on, wait. You can sit down. So Kroger is going to have to shut down their restaurants inside of?
No, you can come get it and take it with you, but there's.
Dine in.
Okay, yeah, they okay.
Yep.
Okay, all
Dine
right.
in and we'll be shut down.
Okay, all right.
Same with Ingles, because they have
Any
seating
dine-
area, any dine-in.
dine-in.
The only exception that we're proposing is like a cafeteria in the hospital, so your workers can go down and eat. If we happen to have one or another governmental entity had a cafeteria, or some kind of healthcare space had a cafeteria within their facility, they can remain open because they gotta serve the people that are working.
All right, I'm gonna muddy it up just a tad bit for Mr. Bailey. If he has a restaurant that has a seating area outside, if a person comes in, purchases their food, are they allowed to go and sit on his patio and eat? If they're not, if it's to go, but they provide a place. Now Kroger closed their outside seating area, but just to clarify what he was asking, that it's not dine in on the inside of his restaurant, but if someone wants to go and eat at his establishment on his property, but outside on the patio, that would be my question. And if it's no, he can't do it, then it's no, he can't do it.
I have no idea.
Or, Rodney.
I mean, you can take each one of these sentences and pick
Right.
them apart. Ms. O'Connor and I have been going back and forth with grammatical interpretations of, does if mean if, or does it mean then, or does it mean now? And I mean, you can take this and just ask all those questions, and I have no
The intent
idea.
is to get people sheltered in place and getting people away. I mean, I think that is how are we getting people away from congregating and
Well,
gathering?
if you got,
I mean, I know what the intent of the order is, but like, I mean.
if Brent got some guys that's out working, and they want to stop by his restaurant and get something to eat, instead of eating in their trucks, or they want to eat outside on his patio, I think that's a question. I think my interpretation is they're not serving the food, that they're not walking back and forth serving you. If you got it to go, if guys working in the service industry, they got food to go, there is a place for them to sit outside. Are we going to charge that to the restaurant? Or is it like sitting at City Park? I mean, I don't know. And apparently you don't either.
I don't either. And there's going to be other questions that are going to come up over the next few days that have never been asked, and we probably are not going to know the answer to, and.
Rodney, I'd like to know who's going to police this.
That's right.
Well, what I was about to say is, the jail's not taking anybody, so they ain't going to jail. So,
Everything you buy at Kroger,
It's true.
up there in that little deli section they got, is to go. So you go over there and sit at the table, which they have over by Starbucks, who's going to go over there and tell them, oh, I'm sorry, you can't eat here?
They closed that area off.
It is closed off?
It's closed off.
Okay.
That and their outside patio is closed off because for what we just said. But if Kroger did it, but if the question is what he was asking, if Kroger wanted to open that outside, would they be allowed to? Because they got it to go. Nobody's serving them. And it's not a
If
dine-in.
Anthony serves something up at Katerina's,
Okay, so right here
and they
it's-
pick it up and go out and sit on his patio,
There you go.
Right
who's going to
here,
go out there
it
and tell them they
says-
can't do that?
It says takeout, drive-through delivery, or third-party delivery option should be the only means by which consumers can obtain food.
That's obtaining food, but it doesn't really
Obtaining
state
food.
where they can go to eat it.
Essentially, there's not an answer to that question at this
Yeah.
point.
Sounds like it's
I think it's a gray area. I read in one of the policies that it did state patio. I guess because of that gray area, people are still going to drive by and see. So I guess it's if I owned a restaurant, and I don't, and I can't speak for any of you because...
That outside area could become considered part of the dining.
Sure, it could. So
Okay, yeah,
I think
there you
gray
go.
area, just eliminate it and there won't be any trouble. But, what am I?
There's other parts of this policy that came directly from Governor Kent's executive order that says that you still have to social distance. So if you say that they could eat at the patio, they still have to be 6 feet apart and it still can't be more than 10 people.
Awesome.
So you still have to meet those requirements regardless of where it is and what they're doing.
And we're going to go through this document in totality,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go.
So while we're still on citizen comment, is there anybody else in the room that'd like to make a comment? Mr. Cotton, do you have any text messages from anybody?
We do, my wife.
So how are we going to?
I will, Griffin Gators will be in that way, and I'll unmute them now so you guys,
What's that?
they are live.
Hey, Griffin Gators.
I saw a message come across, but
Welcome. Is this Griffin Gators?
Hey, yes, can you hear me?
Yes?
Hey, this is Brenda Circle. Do I need to give you my address?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, it's 304 Cedardale Drive in Griffin. I just have a quick comment. First of all, thank you, everyone. I know y'all have probably had so much more than you ever wanted to do. I understand that you're all very busy. From the last Board of Commissioners meeting, there was discussion about closing the city pool, and I know that that is so far down on your list of things, but I have probably about 300 parents that are wanting an answer from me. We have to go ahead and start looking towards the future as to these kids and getting them back into a recreation sport, and we usually start around May 15th. So my question is, has there been any more discussion about opening the pool, and has the city hired a pool manager?
no pool
We
manager.
have not hired a pool manager, we have no lifeguards, and I'm not sure with all this going on, what will be the requirements for sanitizing the pool and having it ready, so I would hesitate to give an answer to that definitely either way.
Kenny, I'm having a hard time hearing you, I'm sorry.
My microphone is dead, so can somebody relay that?
Mr. Smith says we have not hired a pool manager, lifeguards. We still don't know the current status with the coronavirus to the extent of how this is going to impact the pool. So it's on the radar, but right now cannot give you a commitment one way or the other, but we are hopeful to have the pool open this year.
All right, I understand. And Spalding County Park and Rec and USA Swim has suspended all team sports until the end of April anyway. But like I said, I just have to give an answer to my parents. So I just thought I'd come in and ask your question. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You ready?
Yeah, that's it.
No more? Okay.
Wonderful.
All right, moving, we have no public hearings tonight. Moving into the consent agenda, we've got the minutes and we've got some acquisitions. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 and 2?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. McCord with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Moving to the regular scheduled meeting. Consider a resolution, item 3, consider a resolution authorizing the acceptance of Georgia Department of Transportation contract costs associated with the utility relocation of the New Griffin Spalding County Airport. Dr. Peters here to address. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing me tonight. What we are proposing from the Griffin Spalding Airport Authority is a resolution by this body that would support the contracting to move the power transmission lines off the property that would interfere with the construction of the new airport. Let me put this in context a little bit. Excuse me. There would be 3 total contracts. The Airport Authority would sign a contract with Georgia Power and with Georgia Transmission Corporation, who own the power lines and who have those easements to run those power lines where they are now. We would contract with them to move those out of the impacted area where we're going to build the airport. The way that's going to get paid for comes from GDOT to the city, because you are the actual sponsor of the new airport. I don't know that that's legally the correct term, but as I view our operation, the airport authority is your executive agent to work the airport issue, but the city of Griffin is the sponsor, if that makes sense to you. So the way this would work, and the reason that for the resolution, is GDOT is proposing a contract with the city that would reimburse the costs of these transmission lines being moved in the following manner: to a maximum amount of $8,731,220.21, of which $8,294,659.20 will be federal funding, which includes a reimbursement of a portion of the money we have already spent on property. The only money, it's not even money, the credit that the city of Griffin or the airport authority contributes to this is crediting us against property we have already bought, a portion of the value that we've already spent. And so the total would be $8,294,659 of federal funding, which includes part of our reimbursement, and the state of $436,561 and a penny. So what this amounts to is your permission to accept the contract, which is in draft form. We don't have the final wording of that yet. That will still be worked out, although I think a copy of the draft of that contract has been sent to the city attorney for their review. So the total issue would be $8.7 million, 90% coming from the federal government, 5% from the state of Georgia through DOT, and a 5% equivalent of what is credited against our property we have already spent.
And half is that is city, half is that county.
I'm sorry?
It's 50-50 city, county, $218,000.
Well, right, but it's credited from money we have already spent. So it's just take from one column and put in another, or is what that amounts to. So there's no actual cash from the city or the county or the airport authority for this contract.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Second.
Tinsley with a motion, Mrs. Murray with a second. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Service. Item 4 is consider a work contract to repair the culvert at Memorial Park to Utility Asset Management, Inc. in the amount of $95,884 for the Stormwater Department. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is that Ms. Murray? Ms. Murray with the motion.
Second.
Mrs. Ward with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Item 5, consider awarding bid for the repair of the Heads Creek Reservoir Spillway Structure to PF Moon and Company, Inc., low bidder in the amount of $66,589, and consider a task order from the Hazen and Sawyer for construction monitoring services for the Heads Creek Reservoir Spillway Wall repair in the amount of $29,800 in the Water and Wastewater Department, and amend the budget accordingly.
Motion approved.
Ms. Ward with a motion.
Second.
Ms. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Item 6, consider a claim for personal injury to Tom Fletcher Leaks and Arbery Leaks from motor vehicle collision with city vehicle on January 22, 2020 at South Hill Street and South 8th Street. Purported anti-litem notice received by Graham Law Firm on March 9, 2020. Do we have a motion to deny?
I make a motion to deny the claim.
Ms. Murray with a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Ward with a second. Any discussion? All in favor of denial, please raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-1 vote with Mr. McCord against. Item 7 is consider ratification of the administrative order regarding conditional conditions involving public health emergencies. City Manager Kitty Smith will address.
Well, as the late great Louis Grizzard would say, my microphone's dead, my computer's dead, and I don't feel so good myself.
What, did you say you didn't feel
I'm just teasing.
Actually, results.
This administrative order was actually dated on March the 16th. A lot of things are continuing to change, but if you would ratify this outlines leave when it comes to an impacted employee based on contagious conditions or contagious symptoms, and it in essence says that an employee is going to have to use accrued leave at this time until that leave is exhausted, and then they may have to take a leave of absence without pay. However, evolving by the minute, because I just got an email on the way down here about things that are changing federally, and the president has signed a law that will go into effect on April the 2nd, which is going to amend. It is called Amendments to the Family's First Corona Response Act on Paid Leave and Health Care. So if you ratify this from the 16th, it will stay in effect until April the 2nd, at which time the president's order will then take precedent, which is going to give 14 days of sick leave to anyone impacted by the coronavirus, as well as make amendments that I haven't even read yet to the Family Medical Leave Act. So what I'm asking is for you to ratify the order that I put in place on the 16th, which will stay in effect until this takes precedent on April the 2nd.
I'll make a motion.
I got a question.
Question, go ahead.
Do we need to make the motion first and then question?
She made a motion. Ms. Murray made a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Ward made a second.
Is the Presidential Act retroactive?
No. It was passed by Congress, and you had 15 days to sign it. He signed it on whatever day, but I know it goes into effect. He signed it on the 18th, and it goes into effect on the 2nd, and I don't believe I have seen where it'll be retroactive.
Okay, so in theory, if someone fell sick today, they'd have to use their up until the 2nd, they'd have to use whatever days that they had in their sick leave.
They would have to use accrued leave, either sick or vacation.
Up until the 2nd.
Up until the 2nd.
Document becomes a live document, and then they would have.
I think, now I haven't studied, I just got this a few minutes ago, so I haven't studied it, but from what I've learned previous to tonight, it's 14 days sick leave, regardless of whether you have city leave, accrued leave, or whatever. Even for part-time employees, you have to pay them their average earnings for 14 days if they're impacted by the coronavirus.
I guess my question is, anyone who has previously been impacted is just out of luck?
It's my understanding that they will have to use their current accrued sick leave up until April the 2nd.
Gotcha.
That's my understanding as I stand here now.
Right. I'm just asking.
Kenny and Mayor, because this is evolving, should this change each time, it's kind of going back to the other issue, do we all have to get back together and vote, or can we give some executive?
I think the order that you have after this is going to give me the power to make some personnel decisions. I think that's specific in there, that I have the power to make personnel decisions.
Can I ask one question?
You may go ahead, sir.
Okay, I want to ask a question about what we consider impact. If I'm a parent and my child's daycare is closed, are we going to consider that to be impacted if I have a 3-year-old, 4-year-old child that currently, normally, that's a crazy word, but I take my child to daycare and I pick that child up once I get out of school, once I get off work? Are we going to consider that to be impacted? I would think that that's impacted.
Not by our current policy, but beginning April 2nd, that is covered under the president's policy. If you're impacted, if you're daycare, school, or whatever, and you have to take care of a dependent child because the daycare or school closes, that's covered under the presidential order, not under ours. Under ours prior to the presidential order, an impacted employee is an employee who has a contagious condition or contagious symptoms,
Not a family member?
not a family member.
Okay. But the president's does state family member?
President's does.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
No.
We have a
Thank you.
motion from Ms. Murray, a second by Ms. Ward. All in favor of the ratification of this administrative order, please raise your hand. 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And then moving to our final item, consider resolution to declare a local state of emergency within the city of Griffin effective immediately and lasting until April 6, 2020. Deputy City Manager Jessica O'Connor will review and go over it with us. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. All right, let's see. I hope you have this in front of you, and I'm sorry, I just noticed on the way down here it still says model, so that first word you can scratch out. It will be an emergency declaration and resolution. It says model because this came from a lot of different places. One of those was the GMA model ordinance that they sent out last night, for those that saw that. We started with that, and we, of course, took Governor Kemp's executive order that was then promulgated by Department of Public Health, as well as the guidelines that Mr. Proctor spoke about earlier for restaurants and food service, and put all of those into what we think is, as far as we can tell, what the governor issued yesterday. So we'll very quickly go through this. I'm not going to go through every whereas and every sentence because we've all heard this over and over, but this is where we are as of right now. And I don't think we can enunciate that enough. It is changing so frequently that as of right now, this is where we are.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you said you derived this from the GMA and Kemp's order. Also, was the DPL, Department of Public Health, also incorporated in this?
Yes, their guidelines are also in here. We heard from Officer Wilson with Department of Public Health about noon, and that changed some other stuff we had in here. So this has been an ongoing, changing document since about 7 o'clock last night.
Well, the governor's order was actually issued through the Department of Public
Right.
Health.
Correct. He empowered them to be.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank
So
you
if
for
you look on your agenda item, and I know this is new because we just uploaded it this afternoon, you have 3 documents. You have our proposed emergency declaration and resolution. You have the Department of Public Health's guidance in regards to restaurants and food service. And then you also have the State of Georgia executive order that the governor spoke on at his press conference and then signed last night after that was over. So that was at 5:58 last night, which became effective already today at noon. So some of the things contained in his executive order, regardless of what we do, is valid for us. We can't make it any less restrictive than what he said. We can make it more. So our recommendations are in here. The bottom 3 whereases on page 1. We did just go ahead and mention Governor Kemp did announce that all bars and nightclubs are closed. That began today at noon and lasts until noon on April 6th as of now. Also, all gatherings of 10 or more people, unless they can assure spacing for at least 6 feet apart between people at all times, are banned. He's also banned businesses, establishments, corporations, nonprofit corporations, or other organizations from allowing. So he's saying you yourself cannot do it, and businesses, you can't let them do it either. That's still in regards to the ban of 10 or more persons, unless they can be more than 6 feet apart, and that's standing or sitting. So I think that's where Public Health then submitted this guidance to restaurants and food service saying there's not a way to do that. So that's where that came from, saying close your dine-in restaurants. If you skip to the bottom of page 2, a lot of those whereases before that are just some more COVID-19 statistics that I'm sure you've all heard at this point, how to prevent, how to determine what makes you at risk or not. So what we did in section 1 is adopt all of those whereases as findings of fact. So we're saying those are true as well, and we believe those. In section 2, we are finally declaring a local public health state of emergency here in Griffin. We have not yet done that. So if we adopt this as is, we will be saying that we have a local public health state of emergency here. It will become effective when we adopt this ordinance tonight, or this resolution, I'm sorry, and will be effective for 14 days. So that matches the amount of time that the governor has put in place. Section 3, public gatherings on city property. This is specific to city property, and we're saying that none of them should occur. Public gathering means the organizing organized gathering of 10 or more persons. And then property owned or controlled by the city is really anything we have, parks, playgrounds, public spaces, recreational areas. But we also specifically say this does not include a sidewalk, this does not include a walking trail. So I know at Third Ward, and I think at Turner Street, there's some like little trails around it. We're not saying you can't be there, but you do have to be sort of exercising and not just hanging out with people. Otherwise, it's considered closed. Section 4, utility services. We've already sort of alluded to this tonight. We are saying that the city, we're making a public statement that the city will not disconnect any public utility service on the account of non-payment. After the conclusion of this declared emergency, we are suggesting that we give people 30 days to make their payments before service could be disconnected. We have not addressed at this point, and we're not really sure what the recommendation would be at this point because we don't know where we'll be as to whether or not we waive disconnect fees or reconnect fees or late fees or anything along that, so we're not talking about that yet. We don't know. Right now, it would just be as policy currently as written, but we are suggesting to say publicly we will not disconnect any public utility service, not just water, but any public utility service on account of non-payment. Okay. Section 5, the classification of city services. This also we've sort of mentioned. This gives the city manager more power, discretionary, and authority to do things without having to come to you all for a vote. He would be able to delineate what's a required or discretionary service. We've heard about essential versus non-essential. This is sort of the same. He can assign specific employees. So right now we have a volunteer list of about 30 employees that say, hey, I have a CDL and I work in electric, but right now electric's not our emergency, sanitation is, so I'll go drive the sanitation truck. And instead of us having to come back to you and amend an organizational chart, we would like to give him the authority to make that change on a daily basis. Yes, sir.
Is this where we could...
Yeah, go ahead. You about to say
Is this where we could, like, and put in place G, give him the...
Yes, I have a suggestion for that language somewhere. This would also allow him to have employees telework if possible. It gives him the ability to suspend the provision of discretionary services. So if we say, hey, we just can't do Main Street right now, we just can't do Main Street right now. It would also allow him to expend non-budgeted sums in services. However, those would have to be reported to you all after the fact and let you know what occurred, and allows him to use reserves from the city. We are getting a daily report from Mr. Schwab about every day right before 5, telling us what we do have in cash and in investments, so we sort of know where we stand. So we know what we have in reserves if we have to use that. It also will allow him to maintain the essential services of the city in whatever he deems fit. What my suggestion was, based on sort of the comments we've already made tonight, is to add maybe section G, subsection G, that would say to give him the administrative power to modify any of the sections in this declaration resolution. That way, if we decided the occupational tax certificates, which is the next section, really needs to be extended to June 1st, he could do that instead of having to come back to you all to do that. Or the eating establishments, if we say, now we need to also close, I don't know what else we could close there, but something else, he can do whatever is pertinent to the sections y'all are already going to adopt tonight. And that might be a way. If we just added, hold on, let me get.
Give administrative authority to change.
Does everything in here follow the same time period of April 6th?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes. Let's see. If we add subsection G that would say add the administrative, to provide administrative powers for the city manager to make any changes to the emergency declaration as needed. So those sections contained herein he would be able to amend as well. Okay. Section 6, I did mention we have already told the occupational tax certificates to May 1st. They're currently normally due on April 1st, so we've gone ahead and made that determination. A lot of what was in here on the tolling of deadlines was the period of the emergency plus 14 days. That wasn't consistent with what we had already done, and we didn't want to confuse people, so we just went ahead and made that May 1st. Eating establishments, this is where we say that they have to cease offering dine-in services. but may continue preparing and offering food to customers via delivery, drive-through, or takeout. Even if a customer comes in, and it sounds like Mr. Proctor's already doing this, they have to make sure that they maintain that 6 feet of personal distance, and that only 10 customers need to be in the restaurant at any given time for getting their takeout stuff. They also are authorized to sell unopened bottles or cans of beer or wine for takeout consumption off premises. This is a little bit different. We have in our ordinance currently, in our alcohol ordinance that you all amended in 2017, we did loosen those restrictions to allow anybody with on-premises consumption to sell a 6-pack of beer or a bottle of wine. This would loosen that a little bit further to allow them to sell a beer. I don't know who's going to want a beer delivered to their house or have takeout, but we're saying that they can do that.
Might be a 22 ounce.
Yeah. If we figure out what to do about delivery, this would be where that changed. So we could just very easily add in word, shall be authorized to sell unopened bottles or cans of beer or wine for takeout consumption or delivery off premises. We would probably need to go through some more restrictions on making sure that not only the person driving it and getting it there is 21, but the person accepting it is 21. Again, I'm not sure. We'll have to look at some loopholes in there, but if you're giving him the authority to change it administratively, then we can do that after the fact.
You guys send us the language before?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned earlier, this does not include cafeterias that are located within a medical, industrial, governmental, or other such production facility that is required to remain open because it provides an essential service. Section 8 is the closure of certain businesses. This is gyms, fitness centers, pools, social clubs, amusement facilities, bowling alleys, pool halls, theaters, massage parlors, nail salons, and any other similar facility are closed and are to remain closed for the duration of this emergency. So any other grooming or social or general health and well-being facility that has to have close personal contact to be able to perform that service would be closed.
And this does include, because I had this question, it includes gymnasiums that belong to religious facilities.
Yes. I think, yep.
Churches.
The section 9 is personal distance. This is pretty specific to us, and one of the recommendations that Mr. Smith sent y'all, I think yesterday. My days are running together. If your business is not covered in section 7 or section 8, like a grocery store or a pharmacy, then you must post signage on your entry doors informing your consumers to maintain at least 6 feet of personal distance between themselves and others. We're also recommending that they limit their building capacity to no more than 1/2 of the regularly permitted occupancy. For example, if Kroger has an occupancy limit of 200, I don't have a clue what it is, they can only have 100 people in there. If the fire marshal walks in and sees that there are 6 people standing at the sandwich counter waiting to get meat and they're not social distancing to 6 feet, he can then say, Kroger, I'm sorry, you now can only have 10 people in here because you are not enforcing your occupancy load and your social distance requirement, and so now you're down to 10.
So even the ones that are deemed essential, if found to be in violation of policing themselves, then it becomes more restrictive.
Right, and we're saying regardless of if you police or not, you still have to limit to half of your occupancy.
Okay.
So Home Depot, Kroger, Walmart, we know that's going to be hard to enforce, but at least they know we're saying you've got to do this. And it'll be easier to be able to go in and look and see if they're making them meet the social distancing. They're going to have a hard time meeting the social distancing if they let too many people in there. So this is to give them an opportunity to say, we can only allow 100, we got to shut the door, you'll wait until somebody comes out. And also, hey, you can't be in that same aisle as that person, you'll have to wait your turn. How they handle that is up to them, but if fire marshal, fire inspector walks in and say you're not doing that, they'll be limited to 10 people.
I was going to ask, what is our role other than fire marshal?
The fire marshal can always enforce occupancy limits, so if at this point we are then restricting them, he can enforce that as well. What he'll be able to do to them is up for debate. But we want to at least have it in here because we understand that that is just as much of a problem as a restaurant. So that's our way to try and help rectify that situation. Section 10 on gathering, this is any other gatherings that we haven't already covered somehow. All public and private gatherings of more than 10 people occurring outside of a household or living unit are prohibited.
Church.
This is church, this is a funeral. I had a citizen comment or question this morning from the app that said, can you have a funeral here? This actually came directly from the governor. He's already said no to this, so we're just also putting it in here. So, no, you can't have a funeral in the city of Griffin unless it is less than 10 people, and that's where we are at this point.
So on this outside the household, we need to put something in there in terms of residence. I had to clear a house or apartment.
Living unit, household or living unit. So if you live in an apartment, then if you have 11 people there, it's not really, we can't say anything about that. But if you're outside of that household or apartment in a common area of an apartment complex, you can't do that.
We can limit people having parties and things like that.
Outside barbecues.
Based on this.
In backyards, I
I
guess.
mean, I had a house that had 25 people stacked in at 12:30 Saturday night. I had to clear out.
Privately, if you'd like to do that as whatever your relationship is with that business, but we're not saying that we're going to regulate private property in that regard.
So
not
common
right here.
area of private property.
Right, yes.
Enforced, but not a door-to-door assessment.
I'm not knocking on the apartment and saying how many people do you have in there.
But are we going to respond to disorderly household and things like that?
Of course, that's still part of the ordinance. Section 11 is emergency interim successor to the manager and administrator. This is sort of all over the place when looking at different cities. I have been named as his successor if he's unable to fulfill his duties at that time. It wasn't specific in regards to the statute that is quoted here, which is for emergency management. So we just made sure to say that it is me pursuant to that code section, so there's no questions. The next person, some of them say mayor, some of them say another person. So we put in here mayor, a lot of them say chief executive officer. If that's up to y'all to determine how you want to handle that. Section 12 is curfew. We are suggesting that we impose a curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., which will be effective as soon as you adopt this ordinance. There are exempt individuals from that. There's 12 different exemptions. Of course, fire, law enforcement, medical and hospital services, military, utility emergency repairs. If you're going to have to seek emergency medical services or hospital services, if you're traveling to and from your job, you're engaged in the delivery of food, medicine, or supplies, you're in news media, you're a designated employee or agent of business that's deemed essential, and you're providing necessary care of companion animals or critical infrastructure businesses and employees. So there are several exceptions to that, but otherwise, it's not just being out and doing whatever you want from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
So Section 12 would take care of Section 10 for neighborhood parties and whatnot on
If they're
private property.
out, yeah.
If they're out.
Yeah,
If you
that's
see
true.
cars parked up and down this particular street.
Well, it says they have to be on their property, so the owners of that property, or if their tenants could be there, but nobody else could be, they would be violating the curfew.
So number 7 says individuals traveling to and from their jobs with appropriate identification. Well, section 7 under 12. So someone who gets off at 11 o'clock and works in McDonald's or somewhere else and is driving home, what are we saying by appropriate identification?
I think they're just saying, have your ID and tell us where you work. I mean, we're not going to, unless you happen to have a badge, and again, how are we going to know that you just got off? I mean, it's just sort of,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't want us to overreach.
Yep.
Okay.
Will all
Yeah.
of our law enforcement be involved with, I guess, patrolling this?
They
and
will.
Maintaining it? Okay. Good job, Chief.
And where did we get the 9 to 5 from as opposed to some other?
That was in the GMA model ordinance.
Okay.
Most of the cities look as though they are adopting that. A lot of people didn't happen to have a meeting today, regularly scheduled, so they've had a lot of emergency call meetings today, and most everybody has done 9 to 5 if they've enacted a curfew. I think Butts just did it at noon, and they did 9 to 5, the county-wide.
Are the officers going to also question youth that might be walking along in public or areas? This pertains to them also? Does
What is a youth?
a youth?
A youth?
You're a youth.
I'm a you.
You're you. At heart. Okay, we will, and the answer to that is yes.
Okay, Section 13, procurement. This will suspend the bid and competitive portions of our procurement policy. It gives the city manager the ability to utilize single source policy. However, departments are still going to have to provide written justification as to why they are using that provider, and they'll still have to seek best prices. It's not just do whatever you want and don't worry about it. We will have to provide justification for that. The last thing is that if there is anything in conflict, another resolution or ordinance in conflict with what we are adopting here, then those are suspended, not revoked. They will go back in place once this is over, but they are suspended for this duration. The other thing to note is there are some provisions already contained in our ordinances, like our procurement ordinance, that does allow for things in light of an emergency. Even those are not quite as broad as what we've given here, so that would also not apply until it came back to this being over. So we're also asking that this become effective immediately.
With the changes in terms of time frames and stuff, if by chance the governor and public health rescind some of their actions, does that take effect without us having to have a vote?
It depends on what it is. If it is something that he has established and we didn't have to do anything with, like the bars and nightclubs, either we would, depending on what you say with the administrative powers, if it is bars and nightclubs and he says, never mind, I'll take that back, and, April 2nd, they can open again.
But if he extends this to April 15th, do we have to vote on this again, or can we put in here that it continues?
Anything that he says is going to be required for us anyway. We can be more restrictive on things, but if you're going to add that subsection G that says he has the authority to amend this order and resolution,
So we can extend a week if we
right,
they say
without having to come back and bring it to y'all for a vote.
could be less.
I hope y'all trust him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust, yeah.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Welcome.
I just want to make sure that, Danny, you guys are clear on your provision for delivering food as well as beer and wine. You
Right.
guys,
One thing I heard was the six-pack is that's what we're looking at, not single individual bottles of beer to a place, to a house, but limiting no more than, I don't know, depending on how many deliveries we're doing. This is something we're learning, but a six-pack of beer delivering to someone and a bottle of wine is, I think, would be okay to deliver to someone. I don't want to get where we're delivering 4 cases of beer or 2 cases of beer to a household.
Well, and right now, that's not in here at all. So what we have said right now is for takeout, since 2017, you've been able to sell me, if I go to J. Henry's and I say, Danny, I really liked that beer, can you sell me a six-pack? He can do that without us changing this. It's already in our alcohol ordinance. Yes, ma'am.
At your restaurant, do you have occasions where you have to ask for ID when you serve a patron?
Do we have to ask for IDs? Yes.
Okay.
The city law, from what I understand, anyone under the age, it says anyone over the age of 21 can sell alcohol, but it also, there's a subsection in that liquor license that says anyone at least of age of 18 can serve as a server in my restaurant to sell alcohol to them. My thing is, if I'm going to be taking alcohol to someone's house, they have to be 21 in that car. It's a transportation issue.
But I'm saying, okay, if you're delivering it to somebody's house, just like in your restaurant, if somebody's sitting in a restaurant, you might be, they don't look old enough for.
We'd have to card them. We'd have to ask for an ID from them.
Could that be part of it?
In the House bill, it requires that. So, I couldn't make a recommendation for y'all to adopt it and just say, deliver it. We don't care who it is and where it goes. I think we'd have to be...
That could be the same thing.
yeah, because otherwise you stand a chance of losing your liquor license.
Right.
I don't want to lose my liquor license or
beer and wine license.
Right.
I just want to be clear. I know I don't know where, but there are places that are saying restaurants have to close by a certain time, but that's not a provision here in our language or in like the state language.
It's the curfew at 9. 9 to 5.
But, so is that what time the businesses have to close?
We didn't specify that.
Right, and that's why I'm asking.
But I don't know who's going to be there if the curfew is 9. So,
We had that in one
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we removed that at one point.
We put together that they close at 9 and quit selling alcohol at 8:30, but that was when we still had inside dining. So when we took out inside dining, it took out the closing time, so.
But I mean, if you have a curfew at 9, one of the exemptions is not, I need to go get some food. So there's not really going to be anybody there to eat or to go get food. So they could deliver.
Well, it says individuals engaged in the delivery of food.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
They'd be an
So,
exemption in that regard.
in theory, a restaurant could still stay open until 10 or 11 if they wanted to. The provision is just that at that point, it would have to be delivery because we're saying after 9, you're not allowed to go pick up takeout. But
Any restaurant closes earlier than they, what time we thought, anyway.
We close at 10 o'clock every day, but if you change my hours, trust me, I'm not going to fight that at all.
well, no, I'm just asking in general because you're absolutely correct. There's a ton of restaurants in Griffin, and
Waffle
so
House, what are they doing?
I guess I don't take out. I don't know.
I mean, are they closed at?
I don't know, good
nine?
question.
Well, that's what I'm saying
That's 20 hours
because
a day.
I know that there are places that have specific language about when they have to close, but if there is no language, and to me, my understanding is we're not discussing when the businesses have to close, just the way that they're patronized. Which, me personally, I feel uncomfortable with the 9 o'clock. I wish it was 10, but that's just me personally. I just feel like 9 o'clock is early, but I'm also the youngest person sitting up here, so.
Yeah, whatever, if y'all want to make it 10.
I feel like 9 is very restrictive, like,
In regards to our parks itself, though, can we make that, I think currently our parks are sunset, in terms of our parks closing, so people aren't just gathering around in the dark, in the shadows. There's an opportunity for the police to be able to.
Well, they're closed. They're closed, period. Section 3 closed the parks.
that was my other
But
question.
people can walk through the parks according to.
If they're exercising, that's going to have to be the discretion of a police officer to say they're exercising or not.
So if the police officer goes to the park and it appears that people are loitering,
That's gonna leave.
right, at this point is what we're saying is that we expect them to just be asked to, hey, you're not allowed to be here.
Right.
But we don't expect anyone to be doing a whole bunch of extra. I'm very concerned about that. It's an opportunity for us to overstep and target certain people. So I want to be very clear that if we see someone appearing to public gather on city property, that our consensus is that we're just asking them to leave the city property and not that we're taking it as an opportunity to do anything more than that.
Well,
unless it's absolutely necessary.
jail won't take them, so there's nothing else to do.
Okay.
What'd you say, Jessica?
The jail won't take them, so there's nothing else to do.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be too concerned about that unless something else happens and it gets out of control and there is,
Obviously,
then,
if it becomes
right.
a standard.
But we're not arresting anybody for loitering. If we had to do anything, I would guess we'd write a citation for it. We have that provision in our code of ordinances now. But I don't think we're getting, this is just a you need to go home, the park is closed.
Are we gonna waive any late fees on the utilities?
We haven't gotten there yet because we don't know what we're going to be dealing with when we get there.
Okay.
I don't know how to make a recommendation in that regard without knowing what that's going to entail.
All right, that's fair enough.
But we'll have to talk about it at some point.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Concerning sell alcohol, to the one packaging that I'm curious about, I don't currently sell it at my restaurant now, but we have craft beers, things like that at the restaurant. I remember years ago we passed to allow growlers to be sold out of the restaurant.
Correct.
And I would like that to be included in the package sale, possibly sealed growlers to people, because
You can do that now. The only question would be whether or not you can deliver it. Yep, but that is allowed now.
It's not a sealed container it is sealed, but
The state considers it sealed, so you're fine on a growler. It does have some provision about the temperature at which you seal it or
that's fine. I
something.
can put coolers in people's cars
Yeah.
and make sure
Yeah,
food
but
is transported at a safe.
That'll just be the question about delivery or not. Yep.
Are there any other questions?
Nope, I'm good.
We can need a motion to approve.
We'd like to have a motion to consider this resolution.
I make a motion.
Second.
Mrs. Murray with the motion, and Mr. Tinsley with the second. And are we keeping it at 9 o'clock, or we, okay, so we got a motion and a second? Yes, sir.
Vote now, I want some clarification on what you added or changed.
We added the item G to give administrative changes as needed to section 5.
Yeah, I want to know exactly what section G says.
Section G, give administrative.
Tell him, Jessica.
In Kenny we trust.
Administrative powers to make changes to the emergency declaration
As needed.
Let's see, because it's, okay. Section 5 is classification of city services. For the duration of the declared emergency, the city manager shall be vested with the following discretion and authority, to wit. So we can say to amend the emergency declaration and resolution to provide for administrative powers, or let's see, put me on the spot. To provide for administrative powers to allow amendment of the emergency declaration and resolution as it relates to the sections contained therein. I hope you wrote it down because I don't remember it.
That's the only change I see as this is presented.
And then whether or not you want to change the curfew time.
Does anyone have any opposition to it?
I prefer, 9 o'clock at dark. You're going to have our law enforcement out there. It's, nobody ever hits this nail, the time right on the spot. It gets done.
Oh, I'm gonna go with the group. That's just my personal feeling.
Let me ask two more things that I had questions about. Do we want to be specific about patios, or y'all just going to leave it as is and say that's dine-in?
I'll go with Ms. Ward and say that even though Anthony is my good friend, I'm going to say that that's dine-in. We just don't want to, because if we do that, then Mr. Proctor can go get him a tent, set up in the parking lot.
Okay, to include patios,
I think
is
we
that
have
the
to define it.
consensus?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have to define it.
I know how these guys
There'll be
think.
a lot of alfresco dining.
Right.
Yes.
I've been knowing them for years.
Just wanted to
And the
clarify.
whole point is to
Give people,
slow the spread. That's the
That's it.
only reason.
Section 11, the emergency interim successor, you are fine with how it's written?
That's right.
Okay. And that's it. Those are my only clarifications.
Wait, did we define mayor in there? It is defined in there?
It is, yes, it's me and then mayor.
That's awesome.
Don't die.
Dang, what you saying?
okay, so we have a motion and we have a motion from Ms. Murray and a second by Mr. Tinsley, is that correct?
Yes.
All in favor of considering this resolution, please signify by raising your hand. All against, like sign, 7-0. Wonderful. Man, you're going to fire me. This is the longest city meeting we've had
Ooh, Lord.
all year long.
We better hurry up, or we're gonna be in violation of curfew.
I know you're ready to go. I just wanted to recap a couple of things that we have done and has gone on the last few days. As you know, a few days ago, we closed city offices except for screening at our entrances with an EMT, effective immediately, or at least at 7 o'clock in the morning. I would like to close all city offices to the public, with one exception, and that being the parking garage entrance to customer service with an EMT screening with a maximum of 10 people at the time coming into customer service. We do have people that are concerned about their utilities and do want to pay their utilities, so we need to have that facility open. The drive-through will be at full capacity. We've added some drop box locations, and we have, of course, online payments that are very easy, and we're encouraging online payments. I did get word late this afternoon, right before I came here, that the bank has rearranged the invoice cloud so that we can absorb those credit card fees effective at 6 o'clock tonight. At first, they told us earlier today it would be Friday. Right before I came down, they said 6 o'clock tonight. So those fees are not going away. The city is paying those fees. We're absorbing that cost from our customers. We are working with our utility customers who suffer from illness or financial hardship. Of course, the resolution that you just approved will prohibit us from disconnecting those, and you know what that resolution said, but
Mr.
we are...
Smith, how soon could this be for a public service announcement regarding the utilities?
Brian's sitting on ready.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, he's waiting for the approval. It'll go out tonight. I do want to remind you, I said this earlier, but I do want to remind the public that just because we are the government, we don't have unlimited funds. We can't print money. We have cash flow just like small business does, and we're monitoring our cash flow very closely on a daily basis, but the economics of this whole thing affects us just like it does everybody else. MEAG has not given me permission not to pay my MEAG bill. I can't close down water treatment plants or wastewater treatment plants. I can't send my police officers and firemen home. So I want everybody to understand how we operate as we understand how they operate. Other than what I mentioned with customer service, I would like to close all city offices to the public. We are prepared to handle all of our requests by telephone, by email, by web page, smoke signal, it doesn't matter. They can get in touch with us and we will have staff prepared to handle whatever we need to handle, just not in a face-to-face position. Judge Howell has canceled municipal court proceedings through at least April the 16th. So from a cash flow perspective, we won't have any court money coming in as well, but we also will not have that congregation in this room during court days. I'm using a rotating shift concept in all of our departments to keep employees separated as much as possible and also to provide the service. So we have basically everything other than public safety and sanitation we have split into two pieces. So for instance, finance, half of them will work today, half of them will work tomorrow. So if we have a sickness or whatever, we're not contaminating the whole department. And if we take out half of a department, we still have half of a department to be able to come in to keep everything going as usual. So we're doing that. They will be on paid administrative leave while they're not working. So if Teresa is off today, Susan's off tomorrow, and they rotate like that, the one that's off is off on paid administrative leave, so they're not losing their pay. We do, as Ms. O'Connor mentioned, have a list of cross-trained employees that have volunteered to be deployed to different areas. So if somebody in the electric department has a CDL license and we need to put him on a sanitation truck, he's driving a sanitation truck that requires a CDL. We are continuously sending out our press releases, putting everything on social media, and I apologize not only to you but to the public for so many emails and so much information, but as we have discovered, it changes by the hour, it changes by the minute, and we're trying our best to keep people updated with the information as it becomes available. And a lot of it is terribly confusing, as you see tonight, but we're doing our best to get the information out there through press releases and through social media. Does anybody have any questions of me or anything that's going on with staff? We're good to go? Thank you very much for y'all's patience. And I've got to say something about employees. Like Danny talked about his employees, they're busting their butt.
Yes.
Mr. McCord?
I'm trying try to keep it under 3 minutes, because I know we all need to get out of here, and I need to go get my wife some medicine. I'm just thankful that we did have some humanity to take over with our city as far as our utilities. Part of my mind was 90 days, but 30 days is definitely a start, and I think that is within itself a stimulus package to our customers that are suffering, that who are affected by this. And with saying people that are affected, I personally know some people who, in our community, people who have worked in our community, who are right now suffering from the COVID-19. So I think it's very important that we adhere to the words of Dr. Anthony Fauci and all these medical experts about social distancing. Probably the last time I get to come down here while we're having these meetings. My family don't want me around y'all, but we've got to practice that and take this thing seriously. I've read some reports where people are more concerned about the bottom line and their dollars rather than human life. I'm going to side on the side of human life. And if it means that we got to quarantine and stay in for 15 days or more, I think the more of us that practice that, the better chance we got of getting back to a sense of normalcy sooner rather than later. So I've reached out to a whole bunch of people today all over the state, friends out of the United States, to just get some advice. I think the best advice I got was from my pastor, Gerard Duff, who asked that we all read 46:10 of Psalm that says, "Be still." That's all we need to do is be still. Doug and I talked, people were asked to go to war to rid our country of invasion. Now we're being invaded with a disease, and all that we're being asked to do is just be still. Stay at home, stay out of the streets, stay away from people, and we will get through this thing. I want to thank the staff. I want to congratulate our new fire chief. I feel so good. I think I echoed that at our last meeting, what I thought about our staff after our meeting, and now I want to multiply that times 2 or 3 for the job that they're doing, because nobody has gone without any garbage pickup. We have utilities. We got clean water. The city manager has made himself, he normally don't answer my calls, but he's made himself very available during this time. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the business owners. A friend of mine, Bud Turner, he closed his business down last Tuesday because he wanted to do the sociable, responsible thing, and he's going to lose a lot of money. He's taking the money that he's made and he's paying his employees for the next 2 weeks or so, or maybe longer. But there are some responsible people out here that are pulling together, and if we all do our part, the city has made an effort to do its part, but if the citizens don't do their part, we're doing our part, and we're taking a hit. We don't know what MEAG is going to do, but we are doing our part to help the citizens in our community. Now all we're asking is for the citizens to do the same. Let's all pull together, put aside political differences, and understand that in order for us to get better, we all must work together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Murray?
Again, thank you everyone for coming tonight. It was a sacrifice for you all to probably explain to your families and be able to come out tonight. My daughter especially, so she's watching. And again, thank you, Danny, for being such a proactive citizen of our community. And my heart does go out to all the small business owners as well as business owners of any size. This definitely is unprecedented, and I want to stick with facts and not panic, but I do serve on our our Public Health Board, and just from reading some of their information, some of their experts have determined that in order to slow the spread, that we need at least 60% of social distancing, and I think they just kind of gave, and I don't know where they got this particular statistics, but Griffin is somewhat maybe around 40% at this point, so I want to do everything to work with them and to advise our community to please heed the warnings, and I want to come back to this room and see every one of you all and your smiling faces. And the worst thing, I know that it's creating an economic and everything catastrophe, but the worst thing is to lose our most precious resource, and I just want us to all come back from this, and we will. And I just want to give kudos out to Kenny and Jessica. I cannot imagine the sleepless nights I'm sure you all are going through to have to make such decisions. Before I stop talking, I want to say that I did talk to some other public officials in other communities, and one gave me some really good advice last night. I told her I don't want to make just a decision, I want to make the right decision, and what is that? But she said, through her 30 years of serving in public service, she said, look at yourself in the mirror and say your decision, and if you can live with yourself tomorrow, and I believe that I can live with all of these decisions that we've made and that I voted on tonight, and I just want to reiterate again, thank you, and we will make it through this. Thanks very much.
Ms. Flowers.
Very briefly, because it's almost curfew time and we all need to be headed home. As we are off to discuss, we find that we get these regulations from the federal government or the state government, and we are left with the burden of figuring out how to enact them in our local community. So I just want to say that I'm very thankful and grateful to the staff for trying to work through this, and also to our community people who, with even less information and less experience at getting through all the red tape, are making the necessary changes to ensure that we are trying to secure the health of the community. So my hat's off to everyone who's had to deal with the change and who's still trying to figure out how to adapt to the changes.
Awesome. Mr. Brock.
If we'll all continue with this meeting tonight, work together, be united, I see no reason that within a reasonable period of time that we'll beat this thing. And we'll be thinking about it and say, man, a lot of work, we sure did do a good job doing it. And I want to thank Kenny and Jessica especially, because I know their hours is not probably 12, 14 hours a day. I was just kind of guessing in the last week or so. But I appreciate everything the city does. We did have trash picked up at 7 o'clock this morning, so things are going. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Mr. Tinsley.
Anthony, I'd like to thank you and Danny for showing up, voicing your concerns. Hopefully we'll address that. Congratulations, John, on your new promotion. Did you get the car for all the blue lights and all that? Good. Okay. Because it's not at Tommy's house anymore, I can tell you that. Anyhow, I'd like to thank the community for sticking with us, and hopefully they'll abide by this and we'll succeed. So that's all I have.
Ms. Ward.
I just wanted to say that just recently, what I've been reminded is that no matter what we think we're in charge of, there's always a way that God can show us, and I'm saying God can show us that who is in charge.
Say that.
So.
Absolutely.
To Danny and Anthony, thank y'all for being here. I feel for you. I feel for your businesses. I feel for all the businesses out there. And we're going to work as hard as we can to, once we get turned the corner, to use our economic development team, our downtown council folks to promote our businesses, shop local, and we're going to do everything we can possible to help you on that. John, congratulations. Could not have been a better choice. Proud of you. So we keep getting some young guns in there, so it's helping bring the average age not so close to Dr. Keller, more down to below my age. So good job. We're very proud of you. To the citizens, I want to reassure you that the City of Griffin is prepared for whatever comes before us. Thank God we haven't had an ice storm this year. You think about folks that have suffered from Mexico Beach down to South Georgia, how they were completely devastated by Hurricane Matthews just a couple years ago. And we still have our lives, we still have our property, but we will work together. I want to thank Kenny and the staff for your hard work and commitment. We've been back and forth throughout the last few weeks, and it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, but I wish we were doing it in other conditions. And to this Board of Commissioners, I just want to tell you thank you. This could have been a time for having partisan politics and bickering and taking cheap shots at each of us through this process, but y'all have been strong and been together, and we may not 100% agree on everything, but without a team working together for one goal, one Griffin, we would not be where we are right now tonight. So I just want to give blessings to each of you and your families and to the citizens. You're fortunate to have folks like this Board of Commissioners here. They love you, they care for you, and they care about the future of this community. With that being said, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second. We have a motion, Mr. Ward, second by Mr. Brock. All in favor, please rise.
I got the rest. I got my home. I know, it's curfew time.
Heck yeah, let's go eat. Are these ours, or they stay here?